Good morning. Thank you, Ellen, Georgia State, Go Panthers, my fellow alum, and to everyone who is registered and is joining us online this morning. I am incredibly excited to be here with you this morning. My name is Shirley Ann Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Foundation. I am starting my 5th year in my leadership role with this organization. Most importantly, I am a proud Georgia State alum, class of 2008. As the executive director of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Foundation, we lead our community and our supporters through this unprecedented time to support the men and women of AFRD. I've had the distinct privilege of working closely with our special guest for this morning, along with his team, to ensure the physical and the mental well-being of Atlanta's firefighters. The foundation provides the added layer of support for Atlanta's firefighters as they depend on us so that they can be ready and resilient to tackle every day as they protect our city. Today, we have a very special guest and Georgia State VIP who will join us very soon. We've had quite a year, and everyone's lives and livelihoods have been deeply affected. Many of us have had to lead through this difficult time at home or at work, and sometimes even both. It is my honor and my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the 21st Fire Chief for the City of Atlanta and proud Georgia State alum, Chief Randall Slaughter. Good morning, Chief.
Well, good morning, Miss Shirley Ann. How are you today?
I am doing well. Thank you for joining us, Chief. I know it is the official day before your retirement. Let's take a really quick look at behind the scenes with Chief Slaughter.
My day started at 5 a.m., as it always does, and I get up and go for a run. I got 3 miles in, got dressed, and headed to headquarters. Morning, Louis. I am the 21st fire chief in the history of the city of Atlanta. I absolutely love this city. Have a good day, Lou. I love what it was back then when I got here 45 years ago. I love what it is today. Hey, man, how you doing? I get my miles in the morning. I come in, and the first thing I do every morning, I read a piece of scripture. I read Psalms 38 this morning, and I always pray for my firefighters. I don't want you all to ever doubt whether I loved you all. Did I love and care about each and one of you all? I don't want you all to doubt that. As fire chiefs, relationships are critical. I have never seen such support for the department as what we've seen with the Atlanta Fire Rescue Foundation under the leadership of Miss Shirley Ann Smith. My youngest son joined AFRD in 17, and now he's back in the graduate program thanks to the foundation and the tuition assistance program. He's been able to buy a house and he's back in school. So I could not be more proud. They're always volunteering their time as well as resources to support our firefighters. When I was growing up as a kid, I used to see fire trucks going up and down the road. Never did I think I would one day be the chief. A lot of times I go in communities and some of the young kids will tell me that they've never met a black fire chief before. So it means a lot to me that I'm able to physically embody hope in these young minds that say, okay, if this guy can do it, then I absolutely can do it. In fire administration, when we stop taking care of the people who are taking care of the citizens, we need to pack up our stuff and go to the house. Because we got this thing confused. It's not about us, it's about y'all. And it's not about y'all, it's about these citizens. The people of Atlanta should know that as their fire chief and as a native son of this city, I deeply love and care about them. And that there's not one day that I put this uniform on that I am not giving them 200%. I gave it my best, I gave it my all, and I cared about my firefighters. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Okay, Chief. So we actually didn't get to actually talk a little bit about this in the video. But Chief, in your video, you talk about how you start your day every day with a daily scripture. Can you share something with us about your scripture from this morning?
Well, absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's one of my favorite scripture. and it's from Matthew, the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 1 and 2, and it talks about being slow to judge others, being careful about how and the manner in which you judge others, because that same manner in which you judge others will be used to judge you. I've read this scripture all my life, and it's just real relevant to me, especially at 52 years old.
Well, Chief, and it's difficult to judge when we don't know what people are going through nowadays. And speaking of that, I know that you really prioritize your physical as well as your mental well-being, and that I'm a little jealous that you like to start your day with running 3 miles every day. Now, given the freezing temperatures this morning, are you still running outside or are you doing the treadmill for once?
No, 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 no. Days like today, freezing temperatures, I don't do well in cold weather. So I got a Peloton exercise bike for Christmas. And on days like today, the black ice on the roads and everything, I get my exercise in with the Peloton bike. So that's what I do on days like today.
So, Chief, let's you and I talk a little bit about your experience at Georgia State. What did you study and how was your experience? I know that your bachelor's degree was specifically in policy studies. How do you feel that that has actually helped your career as the fire chief for the city of Atlanta?
I'll answer that, but Ms. Shirley Ann, I was just thinking over the years, I've talked to many leaders, both in the Marine Corps, as well as in the private sector, and of course, throughout the fire service. And most of the leaders develop some type of regiment that they follow every day to get them mentally and physically prepared for not just the challenges that are unique to each day, but the opportunities as well. And I was just wondering, what do you do to actually get yourself prepared for each day?
So, Chief, you have to try not to laugh at me. I am a true Puerto Rican at heart. And just like any other true Puerto Rican, we have to start our day with coffee in the morning. And with 3 children, 14, 10, and 4, with a variety of schooling nowadays, so I have virtual, hybrid, and in person for all 3 of my children. If I don't start my coffee, it won't be a good day. So for the sake of myself and my children, I have to say that I have to start my day off with coffee. But I will tell you, with COVID-19 and everything that's going on, I have found it that it's necessary for me to actually focus and give thanks for my children's health as well as for my family's health. I have seen too many of my friends and my close colleagues lose loved ones and also become sick with COVID. And so I have to really give thanks every day for their health. And that's become my daily routine every morning with, thank you, Georgia State, my cup of coffee every morning. But Chief, thank you for that. I do want to talk a little bit about your experience with Georgia State. Tell me how that policy study has really helped you throughout this year.
Oh my God, it's been tremendous. I actually started Georgia State fall of '86. I left in fall of '87 due to financial reasons and things of that nature. I went into the Marine Corps. And so I came back to Atlanta in 1990. I started with AFRD, but also re-enrolled in Georgia State. I came back equipped with not only the discipline to matriculate through Georgia State, but also the financial wherewithal. I had the GI Bill, as well as there was some in-kind services that Georgia State and the city of Atlanta had agreed upon. And so I had the financial wherewithal to actually complete my degree. I actually graduated in 1998. I had a tremendous experience at Georgia State. I had 2 professors, one tenured and one guest, that I really, really, really have to call my favorite professors. One was Dr. Harvey Newman, and the other was a guest professor named Miguel Southwell. Miguel taught me intro to microcomputers, because at that time, unlike kids that grow up with computers today, when I first started college, opening an email was a challenge for me. And so I had to really start from scratch, and Miguel was tremendous. He also required us to read the Wall Street Journal every day. And as a kid growing up in the inner city, I had no clue how much information was in the Wall Street Journal. I had never read this paper before. Professor Newman, Dr. Newman, he required us to read a book called Where Peachtree Meets Sweet Auburn. And it was by an author named Gary Parmovich, I believe. But that really helped me understand the intricacies of City of Atlanta politics. It went in depth into some powerful families, both Black and white, and how their relationships and their dealings, both personally and professionally, really shaped this city into the international city that it is today.
No, Chief, I share that sentiment with you. I studied sociology and focused on race and diversity in our city specifically. And you and I have had to both tackle those issues in 2020 with a lot of civil unrest, the COVID-19 pandemic. So I wanted to really get into that subject. You know, you and I really have seen what COVID has done to our communities, but most importantly to our firefighters. Let's talk a little bit about what did you find were your highlights for 2020, if there was any, but what were your lowlights, and have you identified a silver lining from 2020?
So I have to start out and say globally, 2020 was a year unlike many others. It challenged leaders in a way that I don't think I've seen before. And I'm speaking to a lot of leaders who are really identified as being very effective leaders. And a lot of them are privately dealing with leadership fatigue. But I will say for me, dealing with all of the challenges of 2020, and there were many, probably the highlight is the fact that we were able to mitigate a challenge that the organization had not seen in over 100 years. And I would always remind my leadership team on a regular basis that, look, we're dealing with something that this organization has not seen before. There is no playbook to go to. There are no lessons learned. We're writing the lessons that will be learned. And so, yeah, you're going to make some mistakes. But I believe overall we've done a tremendous job up to this point. We are in a very, very good position, especially as you compare it to other big city fire departments, which in many cases have lost several members to COVID. I would say the low light, if you will, is that I have had several members to spend significant amount of time in ICU. Dealing with the COVID. But the silver lining for me is that up to this point, we have not lost a firefighter. We have not experienced a death related to COVID, unlike a lot of other big city fire departments.
No, Chief, you are absolutely right. When we look at the national numbers, even in our local communities, you've done an outstanding job protecting our members. We have always considered you a servant leader. You have always put the members at the front of every single day. Tell me a little bit about how that servant leadership has served you during these unprecedented times.
So I think when you're leading any organization as complex as AFRD, you are confronted with a myriad of challenges on a daily basis. And I think having servant leadership in your heart allows you to remain focused. And it allows you to constantly ask yourself in the decision-making process, what is in the best interest of the workforce? What is in the best interest of the members? And in my case, the citizens that they protect and provide services to. So that's how servant leadership really kept me focused. And as you heard me tell the members on the tape earlier, when we get to the point where we believe that we're putting these uniforms on only for ourselves, it's time to go home. Because for me, all that I do should empower and support the men and women going on the alarm. And all that they do should empower and support the citizens and visitors to the city that they serve. And that's what servant leadership is all about.
So, Chief, prior to 2020, we really started to create a culture with the foundation of inviting our community into the department, really getting to see behind the scenes, which is also part of the reason why we're here today with the GSU Coffee Conversation. And your firefighters have always been there for the community. They are always there. No matter what type of call it is, they're the first ones to show up. But last year, we actually saw the community show up for the firefighters. How important was that for you to see the community step up with meals, with PPE, and really providing firefighters with the safety that they needed? Was that important? Do we need more of that? What's your thoughts around all that?
Oh my God, Miss Shirley, and as I have told you in private on many occasions, and at many times, morale is what keeps the firefighter motivated to get on the truck at 3 a.m. and it's the 20th call for that particular shift. Morale is the thing that keeps the firefighter coming back when they're just weary, they're tired. It's their third fire of the day, and they don't feel like they have anything left in their tank. Morale is what keeps them going. The way that you and the foundation stepped in and provided those things like meals and even the masks that you all provided, they were a tremendous uplift to the morale of the firefighters. And there are spaces and places that you can step into as the director of the foundation that I cannot step into as the fire chief and as a civil servant to City of Atlanta government. So I can't overstate the value of the things that you did and the foundation did for our firefighters, particularly in keeping their morale at a high level.
So thank you, Chief, for that. I know that a lot of people are looking at your 30 years of service, 30 years, and that's just to the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. That's really post your service as a Marine to the United States. Tell me a little bit about what lessons did you learn this year, and what do you hope your legacy to be?
So I did learn a lot of lessons this year. And by the way, my tenure in the uniform goes back even before the Marine Corps. I started scooping ice cream at Baskin Robbins at 14. So I've been wearing a uniform ever since. But anyway, I learned a lot of leadership lessons this year. Some were lessons that I had learned over previous years, but they were just highlighted and underscored. But one is that effective leadership is a marathon and not a sprint. And just as when you're running a marathon, you get tired, you get weary, you want to quit, you want to give up, but you have to keep going, you have to keep running, you have to keep leading, because just as in a marathon, if you keep running, you will eventually get to the finish line and the reward is sweet. Same happens with leadership. When you see those under your command grow and develop and become leaders in their own right, that is reaching the finish line in a marathon. And that's one of the major leadership lessons that was underscored for me in 2020.
Chief, I know that a lot of young professionals, Georgia State alums, are looking at this conversation this morning. And Mallory from our young professionals actually helped us with this GSU conversation this morning. We have a lot of young people looking at you, a lot of young people who want to be fire chiefs for the city of Atlanta, who want to be police chiefs, who really want to serve. And what we saw in 2020 was young people really stepping up to the plate and letting their voices be heard. What would you say to those young leaders today? What would your advice be in terms of how to get engaged and make a difference for the city of Atlanta?
Well, great. Well, I think the younger generations. I'm Gen X, but I think the millennials and the Gen Zers are the future. They're absolutely the future of America, and I see bright things on the horizon. But some advice that I would give young leaders, and not just in the public sector, but also in the business community, in the not-for-profit, wherever you are, wherever you find yourself leading, is first of all, believe in yourself. Get comfortable in your own skin. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. And so if you believe in yourself, get comfortable in your own skin, all of the challenges, all of the negative things that come at you, you'll be able to withstand. But a little bit more practical advice and a little bit more action-oriented advice that I want to share is, I think we're spending way too much time on our social media platforms. And I think it's at the expense of people reading books, reading magazines, reading journals, reading the newspaper from cover to cover. I had a member tell me one time, she said, Chief, I just did a self-assessment and I realized I was spending 40 hours on Facebook, but I cannot tell you when the last time I read a book from cover to cover. Miss Shirley Ann, that's a problem. That's a problem, in my opinion. But the last thing I would like to say and piece of advice I would like to give to young aspiring leaders, take care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, because you cannot lead anyone in and out of the hospital. You cannot lead anyone if you're an emotional hot mess yourself. So you have to make sure you take care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, so you can step into that space of leadership. And that's the advice that I would give.
You know, Chief, we have a couple of questions really coming through from the audience. And one of them is really specific to us in the fire industry, as we are constantly worried about the physical and the mental well-being of our firefighters. That mental piece has become incredibly important, especially with COVID and the types of calls that our firefighters see. How do you see yourself becoming an advocate for mental well-being of our firefighters as you actually transition into retirement?
Well, I will, even into retirement, continue my push to have the fire service recognize PTSD, which we are seeing more and more in firefighters and police officers as well. We recognized PTSD in the Marine Corps maybe 30 years ago. Not so much in the fire service, but it's like I always tell my firefighters, it's not normal for a human being to pull up on a car accident and see 3 people who were vibrant 10 minutes ago deceased in a vehicle. It's not normal to go on a house fire and see 4 or 5 people dead in a house fire. Those things are not normal. And the human mind sometimes have real difficulty processing the things that's been introduced to it. So I will continue to be an advocate for the mental fitness and wellness of firefighters, even into my retirement. I think we're doing a much better job from what I've seen when I entered almost 31 years ago, of taking care of the physical aspects of being a firefighter. But we got a long way to go to take care of the mental health and well-being of our members.
Yeah, Chief, and we echo your statements on that, which is why we've made it part of our 2021 pledge for the foundation, is to really maintain that physical and the mental well-being of our members. We have one more question before I actually get your final reflections. Again, on your last day before your retirement day. Right now, it's really hard for your staff to really get out to the community and do fire prevention. And we're really starting to see that incidence of fires across the city of Atlanta and in other areas. What is your advice for the elderly to really know about fire prevention?
Well, fortunately, we have launched several virtual fire prevention programs. The challenge is the elderly and the generation prior to my generation are not so connected on the internet as the younger generation. So the challenge is when you put something online or something like that, you may miss a lot of the elderly community. So I would ask that the seniors just continue to be diligent as it relates to candles going around the holidays. Make sure there's water in your trees, and not make sure you're not overloading electrical outlets and things of that nature. But I will tell you, one of the major things I see with seniors is a large percentage of them have really significant trip hazards in their homes. They will have a lot of clutter, a lot of furniture just all over the place. And because their vision is becoming impaired, they'll have a fall. Many times they don't recover from these falls. And so, not just fire prevention is what I would encourage the seniors to be mindful of, but also trip hazards in their homes.
On behalf of the residents and the visitors of Atlanta, we thank you for your 30 years of service. Just a reminder to everybody that tomorrow will be the first time in history that we're opening up the transfer of commands to the public. So make sure to log on to our YouTube page for the foundation to view the transfer of command no later than 4:45. But for you, Chief, after 30 years of service, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I will just say that I'm not only grateful and honored to have been invited here, but I'm grateful and honored, blessed to have been able to serve such a great city, one that I have called home for 46 years now. Never did I think that I would end up being the fire chief. So I'm just incredibly grateful to all of the citizens and visitors and Georgia State for preparing me. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Chief. Congratulations on 30 years of service. We will see you on the other side. I'm sure you may be retiring, but you will not be gone. And on behalf of the Georgia State University Alumni Association, please make sure to stay connected to Georgia State. Thank you to all of you. Be engaged, make your voice be heard, but have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday morning. Thank you for logging in with Chief Randall Slaughter, the 21st Fire Chief for the City of Atlanta, as well as myself, Shirley Ann Smith. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful morning.